Welcome in to episode 22 of BraveHawk Talk on the UNCP Sports Network. I'm John Gross. Today we are joined by sophomore Logan Seliga of the UNCP wrestling team and university photographer Willis Glassgow. But first up, the reigning NCAA regional champion at 133 pounds. Let's welcome Logan Seliga to the podcast. Logan, thanks for hopping on the podcast today. I'm really looking forward to speaking with you. This is about as different and difficult as an off-season as any athlete could face, I'm sure, for the most part at least. What has the preparation leading into this 2020-2021 campaign been like for you?
So, it's different. We're split in groups, so we're not training with the whole team, but we're still getting after it. We're still waking up at 5 to get our lift in the morning and practicing on the mat every day. So, you just got to look at the positive side, really. We're still on the mat. Not many teams are getting the training in we are right now. So, it's going good. I think we're going to have a great season this year.
And you personally had a phenomenal season last year, as did the whole team, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I want to dive into your past a bit. You're a Pennsylvanian from just outside of Pittsburgh, and I went to college in Pennsylvania. And when people look at PA from the outside, they think the big sport is football, and of course it is. But when you're in Pennsylvania, you realize pretty quickly wrestling is up there, if not bigger, in some parts of the state than football. What is the wrestling culture like in Pennsylvania?
It's different. We're breeded different. We start wrestling. I've been wrestling since I was 5, and it's not uncommon for any PA wrestler to do that, really. So it's a year-long sport up there. Basketball is not really that big up there. So it's just coming down here and talking to some of the guys, and they start wrestling in middle school. And by that time, I already been wrestling for years. So it's just a little different. Competition is definitely different. My freshman year high school team, we were the number 1 public school in the country, and we had, I think, 11 out of 14 starters went D1 or D2 to wrestle. Wow. We actually have a kid wrestling at Penn State right now, a couple at West Virginia, Lock Haven, Bucknell. So it's different up there. It is, but I love it down here. I love it down here.
Yeah, so let's talk about that move from Pennsylvania to UNCP, because PA has a boatload of great schools for wrestling, both D1 and D2, but you end up at UNC Pembroke. How'd you end up down here?
So, actually, our grad assistant coach, Andrew Colburn, he actually grew up he's from Best Center High School, which is like 25 minutes away from me. But he moved down to North Carolina in 8th grade. But my coaches knew, like, him and his family. So actually, my coaches reached out to him and his family, and then they got to OT. So that's kind of how that played out. So it worked out good.
Has it been a big adjustment for you? I know you're in your second year down here now, but especially maybe early on your freshman year, was it an adjustment moving down to North Carolina?
Yeah, it was definitely tough not seeing I'm a big family guy. We always have a lot of fun at family parties and stuff, so not being able to be with them and see them, it's tough. But my dad comes down, he travels for business a lot, so he can come down once or twice a month and come and stop in, we'll have dinner and stuff like that. So it was a big adjustment though at first, but now I have a lot of good friends down here now, so it's got a lot easier.
Well, it might have been an adjustment, but listen, you hit the ground running. Just to list some of your accomplishments in your freshman year, an NCAA qualifier, came in 3rd place in the Mountain East Conference, named honorable mention All-MEC, a regional champion. Did you expect to have all of this success in your freshman year, or were you a bit surprised to walk down here and find all these victories?
I wouldn't say I expected it. I I came down here wanting to wrestle, and I went out there every match and tried to have fun. And that's the name. If you can go out there and not put all the pressure on you and say like winning is everything, and you just go out there and have fun, big things will happen. And OT really put it in my head from the first time we wrestled with each other that I was gonna have a great season. He's a really big. He got me going. He really turned me up to another level last year, and it really helped.
So that brings up another great point. Everyone who wrestles for OT seems to have a very unique relationship with him and appreciates his coaching. What's it like for you to wrestle for OT?
I don't think there was another like school that could have. The relationship that me and OT have is a great one. He's like another parent to us. Honestly, we have a great relationship. We go hard when we have to, but we also have fun on the mat. So, and OT is a great guy. He's a great guy before a great coach. If you know what that like, he'll do anything for you, which is really big, and why our team has so much success. I feel like.
Is there a lesson that you've learned from him in your first year or so down at UNCP that has really stuck with you and impacted you?
Yeah, sometimes you have to be selfish, kind of. Sometimes it's good to be selfish when your friends are going out to a party and you have a early morning practice, or you have the conference tournament in 2 weeks and they ask you to go to a party or something like that. It's okay to be selfish and say, no, I think I'm just going to stay in and get up the next morning and go for a run or something like that. He really taught me like to be selfish and to prioritize what your goals are.
Now, looking forward to this upcoming season. We talked about it before. A whole lot of success last year as a freshman. How can you build off of last year's accomplishments as you move into this sophomore season?
Just keep on getting better. That's the name of the game, right? Just keep on getting better. Keep on improving your skills that you have. But last season is last season. Everyone starts the season out 0-0. So yeah, you just gotta keep on getting better. I have a great group of partners in the wrestling room and in weightlifting that we just go at it and we have fun while doing it, and I think that's big for us and our successes.
Have you laid out any goals personally and as a team for this upcoming season?
Oh yeah, I wanna go back to back for a regional champ this year. Definitely do that. Hopefully win a conference title. Put that on the bucket list. And make some noise at NCAAs this year.
And you'll be staying at 133?
That's the plan.
Okay. Well, we like to end our discussions with a fun question, and there have been a whole lot of great wrestlers out there, so I'm excited to hear your answer for this. If you could wrestle against any wrestler ever, they could be famous, they don't have to be famous, and it could be your weight class, a different weight class. Let's pretend you can transform your body to fit into any weight class out there. If you could wrestle against anyone, who would it be?
Definitely David Taylor. He was always my idol growing up. I always wanted to wrestle like him. Definitely David Taylor out of Penn State.
Great answer. What are some things that maybe you try to mimic from his wrestling abilities?
Definitely when we're in the top position, he was great at turning guys, putting guys to their back. And that's one thing that I really work on a lot, and I think I got really good at it last year. So hopefully I can transform that to this year too.
Awesome. Well, Logan, thank you so much for your time, and that's certainly a great person to model your wrestling abilities after. Congratulations on a phenomenal freshman year, and we are very much looking forward to more success for you and the team here in 2020 and 2021, whenever the season might be starting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks again to Logan, and again, best of luck as you embark on your sophomore season. Up next, you've seen his photographs, you've loved his photographs, but do you know his globetrotting story? Here's UNCP photographer Willis Glasgow. You have as fascinating of a career path and life story as you'll find, and we've talked about this before, but I want to really dive deep into your past. I know you grew up in Pennsylvania, you went to college out at Arizona State. Can you give us an idea of a young Willis, what it was like to grow up in PA?
Sure. I grew up in a very small community in Pennsylvania, eastern Pennsylvania, near the Jersey border, right on the Delaware River. And I grew up on a farm, and it was extremely rural. So, I had a great childhood. Played, football, basketball, and baseball every day of my life growing up. Until I left and joined the military basically at age 18.
And what prompted you to make that decision to join the military?
That's a good question. My family's always been pro-military, and I grew up that way too. My father being, part of the children of World War II. So, everything was very pro-American, very patriotic, a little different than how you would view patriotism and patriotic people that we have now. People were just more proud of their of what America did World War II. So and that just rubbed off on me, and so therefore it was just a question of what I was going to do. Did I want to go to college and possibly play sports, or did I want to join the military? And I wasn't, really extremely talented to be a college athlete. And at the time, we didn't know how to go about that. You didn't have recruiting like you do now, and there weren't people helping you. You really didn't know what to do. And if your coaches weren't really, in tune with, what you wanted to do and where you could go, there wasn't much help. So really, I was just kind of left on my own. To try to figure out what to do. So that's so when colleges weren't knocking on my door, to go play baseball there or something, my only option was to basically, join the military.
Now, you talked about sports, and we're going to talk a little bit later on about your your semi-pro football career, because I love the fact that you played semi-pro football. But so you attend Arizona State, and you also spend quite some time in Europe, working at multiple different news outlets. But before that, where did your passion for photography come from?
It's going to sound maybe a little shallow at first. I was in the Navy. We had a port stop in a place called Mombasa, Kenya, and it's obviously on the coast. And I signed up for a 3-day safari to basically the Kenyan Serengeti, and it was really fascinating. And I took a camera along, and with a borrowed a lens from a friend of mine, and I just started taking pictures. And I'm thinking, holy crap, I really want to do this. This is cool. And I mean, that was, like I said, that's a little shallow to say, oh yeah, this is really cool. And I did. I thought it was just a really cool, profession. I had no idea how to get into it, what I was going to do, how I was going to get there, but that's what I wanted to do. And that's when I started, kind of reaching out at that point to try and decide how I was going to do it. So, and, it eventually worked out, but it wasn't, the steps weren't so easy sometimes.
You spent some time in Europe, and while there, you covered some major events. I know you spent time Bosnia and Croatia. Of course, that was an interesting time to be in those countries. What was it like to cover wars? Especially that early in your career.
Yeah, that's also a good question. It was a little intimidating, to be honest with you, a little scary. I was actually scheduled to be sent to Istanbul, Turkey, in 1995, in January 1995, in December with the European Press Agency, and I had a meeting in Frankfurt in basically November of 1994, and they brought me into the office and they said, because of budget restrictions and cutbacks, the Istanbul, job for you is going to be cut. Really sorry. He goes, but we have a place. There's an opening in Sarajevo. Do you want it? And I was like, Sarajevo, huh? And this was right there. This is when the Civil War was just raging on at that time. So I needed to work. I needed the job. So I took it, and I spent a couple of months there in Sarajevo. It was a fascinating time. It was really, really interesting, and at the same time, it was a little scary. There were some times when I thought I was going to hyperventilate because I didn't want to run across the street, type thing, because you didn't know if you're going to be shot at. And at the time, there were several dozen journalists who were killed, in Sarajevo and shot, and yeah, so it was a little frightening. There's no doubt about it. So yeah, that was part of the, and there's some other tiny little stories that goes along with that, but I'm not sure if we have time for all of that.
If there's one story that sticks out, you can certainly throw it in there.
Okay. The one story that sticks out in my mind in Sarajevo was I was, just kind of walking around the city trying to find some, features to photograph, just daily life in a war zone type thing. And I get a call on the radio, and they're like, hey, you need to get over to Sniper Alley. That is the division of the city. Basically, that in the river was separated the Bosnian from the Serbian side of Sarajevo. One side was Serbian, one side was Bosnian. We were on the Bosnian side because the Serbs were very hostile towards the press. So they're like, a French soldier has just been shot. You need to get over there immediately and cover that. I'm like, okay, so I run down there, and I'm across the street from where the French soldier has been shot, but they have already taken him away. So, but I still have to get across the street, so I'm behind a building there, and I have to run across a 4-lane highway, basically. Not necessarily traffic, but right there, you're way out in the open, and, a sniper had just shot this French soldier. So, and this is where most of the people are killed in the press, is by snipers. And, of course, unlike the movies, snipers are from a really good bit of distance away, and you don't hear a bullet coming. You don't hear the shot. It's just a bullet comes and people get killed. And, that's something that's very frightening, at least to me. So
I think to everyone.
Here I am sitting on the ground, almost like, psyching myself up, to run across the street. How am I going to do it? Am I going to zigzag? Am I just going to run? I got 2 cameras around my neck. It's pretty hard to run with, 2 cameras dangling around your neck. So I got up the courage, and I'm almost, I can honestly say I'm almost in tears, just ready, just trying to get myself psyched up to run across the street. I get up, I run across the street, and basically hide behind a Russian tank that's there, and the Russian soldiers are there, and and they're like, we think the gone, you can get up and you're fine behind this tank. It's tall enough to protect you. So I spent the afternoon with two Russian soldiers, freezing my butt off, and talking to them about their life in Russia. And this one soldier gave me a pin from his village in the Ural Mountains, which I still have on my jacket that I wore that day. So it's just a little memento. And while it was, my story is very anticlimactic. Nothing happened. I didn't get shot. I didn't get shot at, and it was actually quite boring for the rest of the afternoon. But that's part of what I did. When you're in a city, it's not constant war. It's more of a shot here and there. A shell gets thrown down here. Your office shakes. When they lob some shells into the city, and just things like that. Just there's a bunch of little stories that make you aware that the war is around you, and that it's actually dangerous.
All right, well, let's transition quickly to sports, and we'll briefly hit on your professional or semi-professional sports career. How did you end up playing pro football in Austria?
Well, for people who know me, I'm not a really big guy. I'm about 5'7" and a half, and in 1992, when I moved to Austria, I was probably about 155 pounds. About 20 pounds heavier now, but so I went there to live to be a correspondent in Austria to do freelance work in and around Austria and Eastern Europe. And a very good friend of mine said, "Hey, you need to come play football. You're a good athlete. You could play." I'm like, "Dude, I'm 30 years old. I can't play football." He's like, "Yeah, you can." I'm like, "Come on, no, this is silly." It's like, "Just come on out." So I came out, and they liked me, and they're like, "Hey, we want you to play." So I'm like, "Okay." So I played my first year and a half on what they call I played for the Vienna Vikings. They actually had two teams at the time. The Vienna Vikings 1, which was in the top division, and the Vienna Vikings 2, which was in the lower division. And it was just kind of like an A and B team. Like, Billy, you could be on this team, on the Vienna Vikings 1 team, but you're an American. We're only allowed to have so many Americans on that team. And they had two guys from UCLA coming to play on the top team. So I played on the lower division team, had a ball. It was just fun as all get out. I played the next half of the season with the Division II team, and then the Austrian Council ruled that I could play as an Austrian because I lived there. I didn't just come in to play football. I actually lived there and worked and was married and all that kind of good stuff. So I played on the Division I team for the next year and a half. And again, just had a ball. It was fantastic. I loved it. Some of those guys I'm still friends with and I still talk to. And I would, one of these days I'm going to get back to Vienna and watch a football game. And, they're one of the top, teams in Europe now. And I'm proud, that my, that my guys had done so well. Just to go show you how high up on, the rung some of these guys are. Eric Wilhelm, who was an All-American at Oregon State, played in one of our fall leagues, and I was his backup. Actually, he ended up playing for the New York Jets and Cincinnati Bengals. Backed up Boomer Esiason for years. Another guy, Mark Helfrich, who
of course.
was the coach for Oregon. He was a quarterback a year after I left. So that was really interesting. Unfortunately, I don't know Mark. I wish I did, but I don't know him. I just knew of him, and of course, it was again fascinating that somebody who's as successful as those guys, that I could be put with their in the same category is it's really fascinating. I still have one of the helmets that's sitting in my office. I stopped playing because I dislocated my elbow, and that was like, okay, I'm 33 years old, and I just dislocated my elbow. I think it's time to stop playing, and that's when I decided, laying there on the ground about midfield, and I'm like, yep, that's it, I'm done. So that was it, you know.
Well, you work around sports now. You are in your 6th year as the university photographer here at UNC Pembroke, and sports photography. I always have a ton of respect and admiration for photographers who are great at what they do. And I know a lot of people have a passion for photography, and my dad will probably end up listening to this. He loves photography as well. So for anyone interested in photography out there, what would you say are some of the keys to getting that great shot at a sporting event?
If we're talking about sports, the
yes.
best way to get good shots or the shot at any kind of sporting event is knowing the sport. You know, yes, you can go out there and shoot a sport that you don't know, and you might get lucky. There's no doubt about it, you know. But for the most part, you know, if you know the sport, in other words, in football, in order to get the best shots, you got to know the game of football. You know, what's the down and distance? What is this team going to do? What is it in late in the first quarter or late in the second quarter? You know, is this team going to run or is this team going to pass? What are they normally going to do? And so on and so forth. If you don't know any of this, you're always kind of behind, you know, the 8 ball. You're not really going to get those great shots. And football requires, for example, it requires a lot of guesswork. You know, are they going to throw to this side of the field? Are they going to throw over here? Are they going to come over here? You know, and sometimes you're on a sideline and you're like, God, I hope they throw the ball right in this corner. If they do, I got the shot. And then they throw to the other side of the field and you got nothing. It happens. And then there's the times when you're situated just perfectly. And, you know, the photo gods are in your favor and, you know, the sun is behind your back and the guy running for a touchdown is running right towards you. You know, and you're like, okay, you know, please, dear God, don't let me miss this. You know, and that's you know, basically what it boils down to. Other sports are a little bit harder, you know, to do. Some are a little bit easier to do. Some, like baseball, you just got to know, you know, what's going on. You know, man on first, 1 out. We're on, you know, our UNCP is out in the field. What are you going to look for? Well, double play. Let's see if we got any kind of double play going on here. Man on second, 1 out. Where are you going to go? Well, let's see if they're going to be play at the plate, and so on. You know, I mean, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? Where's the sun? You know, what angle do you want? You know, and so on. So that's what you're looking for all the time in any sport. You know, you got to know the sport before you can really become good at it.
Willis, we like to end with a fun question or a question that'll really make you think. So I'll throw one your way. If you could photograph any event that's ever happened, ever, what event would that be? It could be a sporting event, it could be a historical event, political event, any event.
This is gonna be odd to many people, and I think it's probably. And before I say it, I'm going to explain a little bit. This event is probably the reason why I want to photograph it is because no Westerners are allowed to photograph it. And well, let's put it this way: I would love to photograph the Hajj in Mecca, but non-Muslim people are not allowed to go to the Hajj, and they're not allowed to visit, the shrine that's there. That would be a fascinating thing to photograph. Just, the masses of people, walking around this black, block of a building, that's, centuries old. And, just to be in that kind of an atmosphere, I think would be, thrilling. Again, that's probably not what most people would think, especially coming from a Western photographer. But, that's something I think would be fascinating, And of course, I really would, there would be hundreds of things that I would love to photograph, hundreds. But that would be the one that came to mind and something that I've always thought I would love to do. But of course, I can't, and until Saudi Arabia, allows it, I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Well, there you have it, folks. Willis, one of the most fascinating people that I've ever met. Your life story is incredible, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. And, go Braves.
That'll do it for this week's episode of BraveHawk Talk. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms, on Twitter and Instagram at UNCP_sports. Like us on Facebook under UNCP Athletics. Follow us on TikTok. And if you're watching or listening to this podcast right now, you are on our YouTube page. So make sure to hit that subscribe button to get all things UNCP Athletics. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week.